Hello, hello, everyone, as you're joining today's webinar. My name is Liz, and I'm one of the co-founders of the real estate investor community. Welcome. Excited to have everyone on here today. I am so excited about who we have speaking, Yang. She's going to be talking about lessons learned from a 42 unit apartment complex. So really excited about that, and just welcome. I'm going to get her set up to join me here, and then we'll get going. But as you're joining, please share in the chat box your name, where you're calling from, where you're calling in from, what you're excited about learning. Our commitment with anything we do with our community is that we give you the most value that we can, and we make your time well spent. That's really, really important. So please do that in the chat if you don't mind. And then we'll go from there. And I'm going to get Yang here online here. So hi, Mary from Los Angeles. Thank you for being here. Hey, Liz, how are you? Good to see you. Awesome. Hey, Melissa from Conventus Lending, one of our sponsors for InvestHER. Thank you for being here. Excited to have you here too. All right, so let me find Yang, and then we'll get rolling here. We like to start on time. We like to end on time. I know people are quite busy, so please keep sharing your name, where you're calling in from, and anything you want to. Hey, Christine, my friend Christine from LA. We'd love to serve you best. So please, in the chat box, share anything you want to get out of it. I'm going to just do some housekeeping here, and we'll get going. Okie dokie. Bear with me, Yang. I'm going to get you in here in a second. Okie dokie. Okay, Yang, you should be here soon. You there, Yang?
Yes, I'm here, but it say I can't start video. Can you hear me?
I can. I'm not sure
Okay,
why that
perfect.
is, but I'm going to let me do this. You're considered a what, panelist?
Correct.
All right.
It just said the host has stopped it. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, let me make you a co-host and just troubleshoot this later. But
Sure.
I think you should be able to do that now. And hey, how are you?
Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see everyone.
Yes, we got a lot of people registered. We got a number of women and men still on here joining us. They're excited to see you here. So
Thank you so much.
All right. So I will deal with that other issue, but at least we can see your beautiful face. Yang, I'm going to share a few things with slides. I'm going to pop up my slides here right now because I want to get going. I like to start, you know how we roll. We like to start and end on time here.
Perfect.
And then I'll give you the floor. But yeah, thank you for being here. Excited about this topic. I've been we've been obviously following along with you in this journey of this property. So really excited to dive in, what it is, how you close. I'm sure you're going to give us the good, bad, and ugly here today. Hopefully there's no ugly,
Absolutely.
but the good, bad, and learned lessons, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Very cool. Awesome. So I'm going to get started, but again, thank you so much for everyone being here. Like anything we do in our community, we really like to give you as much value as possible, and jump in as quickly as possible. But I'm going to share a little bit about who we are. We have a lot of women coming into our group, our InvestHER community, every week, whether it's through meetups, whether it's through our Facebook community. So I just want to welcome the newer women to our community. If you're new and you've never done anything with InvestHER before, I'd love to know that. So just throw it in the chat box, just say new. I always assume I know everyone, so to speak. And it's just nice to see new faces and new women. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Vanessa. Hey, Megan. Hey, Crystal, Julie. Awesome to see everyone. I think some of you are sending it to hosts. Okay, perfect. Hosts and panelists, but to make sure you send it to everyone. Melanie from Canada. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for being here. Just so for those who are not familiar with our community, I'm going to share a few slides about what we're up to, and then give the floor to Yang, because that's what we're here to do, is learn about her project. So our mission real quick is to empower women to live a financially free and balanced life on your own terms. and whatever that means to you. We say that on our podcast every week. So what we're about is creating an intimate global platform. Our mission and passion is to have a global community where women are really giving and getting, supporting each other. We're supporting women through, obviously creating generational wealth. We do that through courses and live events. Our InvestHER I'll mention in a moment. We do have a Strive membership, which Giang is a part of. And then we also are investors ourselves. So we always like to state that as well. So a little bit about us. We have a podcast twice a week. We are published by Bigger Pockets. We release on Tuesdays and Fridays. And we're listened to in 42 countries, which is super, super cool. So connect with us that way. We do have meetups. We do have a few in Canada, which is awesome. I saw someone from Ottawa. So I know we do have a location in Ottawa. Giang is involved with one of our Philadelphia local meetups. And the goal there is that women have a local community to give and get and support each other. It's pretty simple. And our goal is to have meetups, hopefully one day across the globe. And then we also have our Strive members, which Giang is a part of. We open doors twice a year. And this is for more experienced women. But if you're looking for a tribe, a more intimate, ongoing tribe, check that out. We are taking applications ongoingly. Our Facebook group, which is most of you have connect with us, we absolutely love and adore, because this is where you can just pop questions in there for free, get the support you need. And we really like to keep that clean. So we don't like people self-promoting and all that, but please share your questions, share your concerns. Constantly doing events. We also have an EXP team. These are real estate agents that are women that are looking to also invest. So that's pretty cool. We have an arm of our business that does that. And then we're also, like I said, investors along with you. We were, InvestHER was a general partner of a pretty large project last year. And we'll be doing more of that, where we're on the GP side of different projects as InvestHER. So a little bit about us, real quick. If you have not gotten your ticket, get your ticket today. It's going to be amazing. I'm biased, but it is. We have been pouring ourselves into this conference like we did last year. This year is going to be even better. It's in May 18th and 19th in sunny Scottsdale. And we've literally rented out the entire resort, the Omni. And so we're just really taking it to a different notch. Our theme and our mission there is about generational wealth. We just announced all of our speakers. Our new website for InvestHER is going live with the agenda, everything that you're going to need to know. But yeah, I know our prices are going up by March. So just come engage with us. This is going to be the event of the year. So please come, and love for you to join us. I also want to give a quick shout out. I saw Melissa from Conventus on our session here today. Thank you for being here, Melissa. Her logo's over here. These are our sponsors. We have annual sponsorships, Story by JP Morgan, Quest. And then we have all of these lovely and amazing sponsors that are supporting our InvestHER Con. Can't do big events like this with 500 attendees without the support of companies. It's just not doable because of all the pieces we have to put together. So just thank you. We have such great companies that are not only real estate investing focused, but women focused. And that's what we adore with these companies. So check them out. They do different types of things, passive investing, different models. So I want to just give a quick shout out. And Melissa, thanks for being on, especially because I know you're on here today. And if you want to learn about sponsorship, please check out our website as well. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking, stop sharing my stream. Giang and I go way back. I have known you for probably at least three years. Giang started as a meetup leader, a friend, a colleague. She joined our Strive membership, and I have just so enjoyed seeing you evolve in your portfolio and the stuff that you used to do, and now you're taking on like 42 unit buildings. So just love seeing your journey. And when we saw her posting so much, we said, this is a great idea for a webinar. So thank you for being here. I'm going to stop talking. I will come back on about 15 minutes too and help field questions. If I can just ask everyone on, Giang is a wealth of knowledge and information, but the chat box gets noisy. So please post any questions you have in the Q&A box, and I'm happy to field those. But Giang, thanks again for being here, and thanks everyone for being here. And you got the floor, my friend. So take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Liz. Thanks so much for the introduction. And thank you everyone for being here. I know you guys have a lot of choices you guys can make with your time. So I truly appreciate you choosing to spend the next hour or so with me. And I am committed to provide you guys with values to take away. So please don't leave without taking the value that you came here for, okay? So I'm gonna try to share my screen and let me know if you guys can see it.
And I'm just going to take my screen off so that everyone can focus on you.
Perfect. Okay, so let me go ahead and get right into it. So today I'm gonna share lessons that I learned through this closing this 42 unit through an online foreclosure auction. Here's the agenda that we're gonna go through. I'm gonna do just some quick introduction, just getting related so you know who I am. We'll talk to the acquisition process, the bidding process, the financing. I'm not holding back on anything. I'll share what Liz said, all the good stuff, all the lesson learned. Well, if we have some time, we'll go through some operation updates, quick summary, and then leave plenty of time, hopefully, for some Q&A. All right, so a little bit about myself. My name is Giang. I am an immigrant. I was born and grew up in Vietnam. I came over to the US for college. And since after college, I was working as a scientist doing generating gene therapy for a blood disorders called hemophilia. So I was a scientist for almost 10 years and just recently in August left my W-2 because of real estate has been able to replace my income from my W-2. Outside of that, I am a competitive salsa dancer. You can see here on the bottom right are some of my trophies. We compete at multiple regional competition and an international competition yearly in Miami. So I just came back from Miami last month. I am a multifamily investor and syndicator. And one of my big whys are be able to support my parents' retirement and be able to spend more time with them. As an immigrant, my parents just came over about 5 years ago and they are not eligible for Social Security. So I've been helping them a lot with investing, be able to replace their income to support their retirement. And whether I want to admit it or not, my parents are older than I would like to. So being able to spend time with them has been completely amazing. And I have real estate to thank for that. So that's all about me. A little bit about my investing journey. So I start in 2015 with a single family. That was also a foreclosure. My very first property, a complete rehab. We didn't have any water, no HVAC, no electricity. The property was vacant for over 20 years. And in fact, there was a giant tree growing in the backyard. And because it was vacant for so long that it became over 2-story tall, eating into foundation. So first property out of the gate, foundation, water, HVAC, plumbing, everything. So this was my crash course into construction 101. Lots of fun, lots of exciting things. To be honest, lots of crying. So this was the project that I learned about myself. I know that I can figure anything out. I completely trusted myself for that. What I didn't do that I should have done was trusting a community and finding a community to bounce ideas off. So I mentioned that I, to be honest, cry a lot during that project because I did not have the community to support me. So shown here in the picture to the left is me in that basement. Actually, Christmas Eve, we were getting ready to re-pour the basement, and we were doing that ourselves. So lots of fun there for sure. So after a single family, I started out with just a property a year, just doing these two are actually multifamily conversion projects. So they were single family that I converted into a duplex. These, again, same thing. They are slower process, completely rehab. I was doing a lot of things by myself, did not ask for help, did not learn a lot of things. And so that was a slow and honestly somewhat painful process to go through. I took a break because I was preparing for medical school at that point. I wanted to go to medical school. So I took a long break from real estate. Now, back in 2020, just right before the pandemic hit, I got the news that my dad got quite sick. And my dad back then was back home in Vietnam. So for me, even though I was a scientist, and to be honest, I did have more flexibility at my job than probably most, the thought of being able to go back home and being able to be there and support my parents the way I wanted to was not at all a probability, was not at all a possibility. So that was a push that really helped me scale in real estate, because I realized that I needed that financial freedom and kind of that time freedom to be there for my family. So when the pandemic hit, there was a lot of time I spent on education, a lot of time spending going to a lot of real estate investors webinars like this to learn more about the real estate world. And so since then, since July 2021, I scaled my portfolio from a 5 units to a 28 units just within 7 months. That actually helped replace my income completely. I quit my job 6 months after that, and then actually got under contract for this 42 unit at the very last day at my job. So it's all meant to be, all fun, exciting, lots of things to learn. So let me dive right into this 42 unit. So I will pause the video for a bit. So as mentioned, it's a 42 unit. It was an online foreclosure auction. The starting bid was 1.25 million. It was actually a factory that got converted into multifamily. So the multifamily conversion happened in 1988. So overall, still in relative term of apartment buildings in that area, is still relatively new. When we view and purchase it, the building was 86% vacant. So the lender took it over and ended up evicting a lot of tenants that has not been paying. So we were coming in with a building that was heavily vacant. This building was located, or is located, in Reading, PA. It's about 410,000 population. It's about an hour and a half from Philly. So in a grand scheme of things, it's a secondary market. And this is where I have been finding more success in getting deals, getting good deals, is where in this secondary market. So within 2 hours of the large cities. I mentioned about where I find it online. I'll show this video a little bit just to show what the inside looks like. I'm not sure you can hear myself, but. Okay, so as you can see, because it was a factory, it got converted into this. It has some of these nice, really tall, beautiful ceiling. The apartment building was since 1988. So you can see that, it's just older material, older LVP flooring, kitchen, all that stuff. So this was kind of what we were walking into. So let me share a little bit about a couple online auction platforms. This list is not at all extensive, but I just want to share a couple of options that I have used and seen. So in the single family space, on the 2 to 4 units and maybe smaller multifamily, you have auction.com, Hubzu, ServiceLink, RealtyBid, and Bid for Assets. So these often have a lot of the smaller size multifamily. On the larger end, you have Crexy and 10X. So these have really large commercial space and really large multifamily. I was just looking at like 100 something units also on 10X actually through these sites. So my advice is that if you're even just consider looking into this space, what I would advise first is a lot of preparation part to start. So I would start out with setting up alerts. So you can choose, go to this site, set up an alert, pick your location. I would maybe start with a location, maybe somewhere you're already familiar with. Pick that location and just kind of see what's showing up, and you can start and expand from there. You can choose your assets. So as I mentioned, single family, 2 to 4 unit, smaller multi, you can define the number of units. You can define if you're looking for self-storage, whatever that looks like, define that asset and put that in your alert so you can kind of see the properties that you want. A tip I would suggest is set up a separate email address for these. If you have your company address, you can set up properties at whatever your company address is, or Gmail, that is absolutely fine as well. But using a separate emails just kind of help streamline the process and not really crowded out your emails normally. Now, these documents that I put here are going to be different on all of these platforms. So it's very important that you familiarize yourself with these documents and the process before you even start bidding on the properties. So for all of these sites, you will find these documents. You will find the registration requirement, and I will kind of go through some of that in my scenario. You will find out about the bid-in instruction. You will also find out about the fees, the closing cost. The purchase agreement is something that you want to read before you start bidding. For these company, they are a company, so they have a template for purchase agreement already in place. There is some negotiation available, but you definitely want to make sure you know what the terms would look like, right? This process is very different from your usual, you ask your lawyers to craft your own purchase agreement or use a standard agreement type of thing, right? So you want to know what their purchase agreement looks like. You will also want to know what it looks like if you were to a winning bid, and then what the closing process looks like. So all of this process should happen before the property that you might want to bid on came on the market, right? So you want to spend some time and set all this up in place before you start seeing the properties that you want to look at. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the specific of this 42 unit. So the first hurdle that we had to jump through was even to become a registered bidder. So the requirement, as I mentioned, is that you find out about your, what the requirement like to register. So their requirement is that you need to have, for Craigslist at least, and probably for a lot of these companies, you need to have a unconditional proof of fund of the bidding amount or more. What that looks like is usually a bank or a fund statement or a line of credits, or if you have 1031 proceeds, that would work as well. Some of these companies would work with you and allow for a letter of pre-approval from a lender, and some may not. It may say that so in their guideline, and I will share a little more about this later, but this is where your relationship building will come in place. But it is very important to understand what your proof of funds requirement looks like. Most companies will also have a deposit requirement. Some of these look like about 10K. And what that looks like is you have to send in your deposit. If you become a winning bid and you don't go through, you will lose your deposit. This process takes some time, so you definitely want to make sure you set yourself up, because the bidding process sometimes would only last either a couple of hours or a couple of days. So you want to make sure all of this is, you understand what that is, and you set yourself up for success for that. So the first hurdle, as I mentioned, is that we don't have a bank statement of $1 million or a line of credit or 1031 proceeds to even become a registered bidder, right? So for these property, if you're not a registered bidder, often you won't be able to view the property. And if you can't view the property, then you can't have a construction budget to actually talk to your lender. So this is kind of a catch-22 of how do we move forward with this, right? So how we move forward with this is, first, as I mentioned, this is their guideline, but understanding that it is a part of building relationship and that there is some room for exception. So in order to get accepted, I needed to have probably 8 to 10 conversations with the auction specialist. So for any property that you're about to bid on, there is a person known as that property's auction specialist. Their role is to help the bidders all set up, to advocate for the seller, and essentially be a mediator between both sides, right? So I have had a lot of conversation with this auction specialist, sharing with her about my experience, about my strong interest in this property, why we're so interested in this property. And I needed to understand that their goal was to show the property to only qualified buyers, which for them means that have the financial capacity to close on it. For me, I convinced them that, hey, we will get the lender letters in place, but we cannot get that in place unless we have the construction. So this is where that conversation, the consistent conversation happens to help you kind of become an exception to their guideline. So understand that. The second solution that we come up with that we had to go through is to have a lot of conversation with many lenders, right? Even when there are hard money lenders out there, some of them are not friendly with buying properties at an auction. And we may see a lot of property at auction coming up. So this is very important for you to start having conversation with a lot of lenders and understand their appetite, understand what they're looking for from you as a borrower, from the property as an asset, and kind of starting to have these conversations. So we did end up getting a letter of pre-approval or letter of conditional approval from our lender. And the phrase I put in here that seemed to work well for both sides is that there are no adverse changes affecting the proposed transaction. This kind of saved the lender from like committing to a property. Why this still be okay with the auction specialist, because we explained it to them that, this may just mean that, say, if there was a fire, something crazy happened, the lender is not going to go through, and they understood that. So this was what we're kind of working out with the auction specialist. And again, this came from having a lot of conversations with them and understand what is it that they're looking for. The solution number 3 for us is to build relationship with the brokers. So when we went out to view the property, I always share with them my experience. I always share with them my experience, not only in that market, but in the community. What is it that I'm looking to do for the community? I mentioned this multiple times during showing, during phone calls, in writing. I share with them documents, explaining our experience in the market, our business plan. I give them plenty of material for them to advocate on our behalf, right? So during this process, you have to keep in mind that explaining it once is never. You have to keep repeating the same things, adding in supporting material for them to really get it, right? So that when they pick up the phone, they should know you're an experienced buyer, you're interested, and you will close on this. So that multiple conversations is really important, especially in an online environment where you don't quite have a lot of that face-to-face. And the last solution that we came up with was that we increase our earnest money deposit. So another note to know is that for a lot of these online foreclosure auction, the earnest money deposit will often go hard day one. So we offer to increase our earnest money deposit to 20% hard day one, so that it's actually help increase our credibility and increase our, showing the sellers that we are serious and that we will close on this property. Now, this has a lot of risk, right? So I do want to preface that by saying that this does have a lot of risk. Why we were comfortable being okay with that risk was because we have been in this market. We have team in place. We have property manager in place. Both my partners and I are very active in this market, which is why we were okay with making this choice. So we were approved as a registered bidder. So you can see already at this point, I have lots of conversation. There's a lot of hoops I already jumped through. And we actually got approved to bid about 3.5 hours before bidding close. So, and this process took about 3 weeks. So cutting it slightly close, not gonna lie. But this is just how things are from an online foreclosure auction, right? There's a lot of moving pieces and things might seem close, but it's just how it is. Okay, next step, I want to stress that the key lesson here that I want you to take away with is that you got to advocate for yourself and your team with everyone that you meet. So what you do is you pick 2 or 3 strengths and you find related examples to back your strength up, right? So for us, we have a lot of experience in this market. Our team actually know the property. So those are the 2 things that I keep driving home. And I mentioned, like, we did this project here, we know this lender. A lot of these are examples that help back us up to show that we have a lot of experience in this market. I share this with everyone I met on their team. I shared it with the brokers, the auction specialists, their property manager, their closer, anyone that I came in contact with on their team. I share these exact same strength and example. This gives them a lot of material to actually advocate on our behalf to the seller. So actually they did tell us that, they advocate for our behalf because the seller did not want to accept someone without cash in the bank. So all of this was helping us and getting people on their team on our side to help advocate for us. And I want to stress that even if you're starting out, you have strengths. Believe that. Pick those strengths. Find partners if you're concerned about the experience piece. Find partners in that market. Advocate those same point over and over, and you will stand out. I promise you that. Okay. So let's talk about the building process and what this looked like for the foreclosure online auction. For us, there were 2 setup viewings, and that's it. These are not some of those things that, like, hey, you schedule whenever it's convenient for you and you can go view at your own leisure kind of thing. They have 2 setups showing, you show up or you don't, and that's it. So you have to understand that you're going to make every effort to be there. The viewing process is not understand that for foreclosure auction, they're not going to fix anything for you. All of anything viewing is for your information only, and you needed to take that into account when you run your numbers, right? Understand that you may not be able to view all units. We had 42 units and we could only step in about 7 or 8. Because of that, we had to assume the worst. And I would advise anyone to do the same, right? You always assume the worst. You always assume that you have to replace everything because you just can't lay your eyes on it. In our case, and for a lot of large multifamily for these foreclosure auction, they probably would already done a property report. This is because when the lender took it back over, they have to hold it for a while before they could put it back on the market. And as part of that, they have to do a property report to make sure what is unsafe that has to be remediated immediately and what is okay to pass on. So they share with us their property report. If there isn't any, do ask for it because it may be already available. So in this property report is very important, right? Because you wouldn't be able to do an inspection on your property, but this property report helps you understand, okay, what did the property inspector found and what has already been remediated in this process. So this was very helpful for us to understand the property even before we step foot on the property. I mentioned always assume the worst, especially for all your mechanicals. Because we knew that we only had a limited number of opportunity to view this, when we viewed this property, we had many contractors walk with us. We have both our property manager, we have an HVAC person, we have a roof person, me and my partners who have a lot of construction experience, both all walk the property. So we have a crew of 5 to 7 people walk the property to make sure that we can be as accurate as possible with our assumptions coming in. And as I mentioned, because we don't know a lot of information, we had to add in a lot of extra time and extra money as part of our underwriting process. So all of these are what we put in place to remediate the risk of buying something in an online foreclosure auction. All right, bidding strategies. This can be an exciting, but also honestly very nerve-wracking process. So as I mentioned, that the auction specialist or the bidding specialist can be your BFF, right? She's or he is gonna know all the information about the property. Is gonna know everything about the bidding process. But understand that they work for the seller. So they have to advocate for the seller. So you would want to communicate with them your thoughts, right? What your thoughts on the property, what you think you may bidding up to. But I would suggest holding back a little bit on the real number that you're willing to go up to, because, information is power, right? So you want to make sure that you don't give all of that away. So communicate enough for them to advocate for you, for them to know you're serious and you put thoughts into this, but hold back a little bit on that numbers. Before you go to bidding, understand the guidelines. It's very important. And you can ask the auction specialist about this, right? You want to ask about time extension, the reserves. What that means is there is often a minimum bidding price that the property would trade at. This does not necessarily mean that if the reserve is not met, the property won't be traded, but a lot of time that might happen. So you want to ask about the time extension. So for us, if a bidder bid within the last 2 minutes or so, the clock will extend another 2 minutes. If the reserve is met, the clock will extend another 4 minutes. So all of this is built out in place for an online auction process. And you want to know about this so you can prepare for it. You'll definitely also want to know to ask about the after bidding process, right? If you don't win, how would the money get refunded to you? Your deposit, how would it get refunded to you? And if you do win, what would that look like, right? So during the bidding process, I would suggest setting what I call a soft highest bid and then a hard line highest bid. During this process, your emotion is gonna run high, and every click you make is probably like 100,000. So you want to make sure that you set that highest bid, the soft highest bid, so you know you're kind of preparing yourself to stop, and a hard line highest bid. This comes from your underwriting. You want to have all this in place, talk to your partner, get all this in place before your emotion run high, and before you know it, you're over what you think you should be buying this for. All right, I just want to share some pictures. So on the left is a picture at our property management office. They put the bidding website on their screen, watching the clock count down. We were texting back and forth because this bidding would just keep jumping back and forth. And on the right was our FaceTime celebration FaceTime call. So Bree, my partner, is also an InvestHER. Adam and Anna are our property manager. This is actually me and my last day at work, and Bree was actually on her way to Spain. So none of this was planned for, but this was how things happened, and we're so happy that we were the winning bid on these 42 units. All right, so hurdle number 2 that we had to go through is to go through the syndication process within 35 days. So for a lot of online foreclosure auction, once you get in a contract, you have about 30 to 35 days to close. For us, because we know that we're going to raise capital, we met what's called a how we test. So understanding that, if this is an invested money into a common enterprise, we're all buying this property with an expectation of profit, right? We told our investors, here's what to expect, to be derived from the effort of others, meaning they are completely passive, we're the active one doing this. Because we met all of these 4 prongs, this had to become a syndication. So for us, that was a challenge. If you know about syndication, they're usually a 60 days, 75 days process. So for us to get all this in 35 days from under contract to closing was a hurdle. So a couple of tips to get through this. 1, you want to keep your structure simple. So we only have 1 class for investor returns. We don't have a waterfall system. We don't have all the complicated class system. 1 class, keep it simple. Talk to your attorney as soon as possible. And they should be able to get all this in place within about 2 or 3 weeks. I would always advise having a shell LLC ready. When a property under contract, you want to put that under the shell LLC. One thing that we did run into is that I would highly consider creating LLC from states that have passed approval process. We're in PA. PA LLC approval process takes about 3 weeks. And that's 3 weeks that we didn't have. So we were definitely holding our breath on getting all that LLC in place. So if we were to do it all over again, we would just pick states that have an instant approval and get this moving. So key lesson number 2, as real estate investors, you're always looking to build relationships and provide value to other people, right? So we were able to syndicate this property within 35 days. We had investors jump on this deal, and we're super grateful for that because we have been building relationship. We have been sharing our journey, and we have been adding values to other people, right? So this is a tip for you guys, even as passive investor or active investors, right? You're always looking to add value to people. As passive investor, for example, this deal, right? I couldn't pitch this through my social media. I couldn't pitch this publicly. I could only pitch this deal to people whom I have built relationship with due to SEC regulation, right? So for you, if you are considered passive investing, I would highly suggest building relationship with operators because things move really fast. Good deals move really fast. So you want to start building a relationship right now. So my challenge for you guys, if you guys want to accept it, is to share your secret identity as a real estate investor online if you have done that already, right? So before this deal got a contract, I was doing a 30 days challenge where I was going live daily on Facebook, sharing my journey. And actually, I had people reaching out, and I didn't know I was prepping myself for this, but all of that leading to me being able to bring investors in such a short timeline. The idea of showing your work, right? Even if you're starting out, people would love to learn with you. So share your work, share what you're doing to grow in this journey. And I promise it really make a huge difference when you add value to people by sharing what you're doing. And just have a lot of conversation. I mean, real estate is exciting, right? You got to share what you're doing, and that's really help as you're moving through your journey. All right, appraisal process tips. So you definitely, we all have a short amount of time. So you definitely want to ask appraiser for a quick timeline. You want to hand the appraiser everything that they ask for plus more. So we give them our rent comps, our sales comp from CoStar, finished photos about what we usually finish these units looks like. We give them a business plan. We give them a story behind the purchase. And all of this was helping them move the process along and just helping them with the information, right? So we got great news with our appraisal. Our bid was accepted at 2.7 million, and our as-is market value was at 3.9. So we're coming in with about 1.2 equity in the as-is appraisal. So great news. We were celebrating. We're so excited. And this was like maybe 12 days before we were ready to close. And we were like, reading the outside release. This is great, amazing. And then we got a news from our then lender that they could not close on time. So here's hurdle number 3. We had to switch lenders with about 12 days to go. So this was super stressful and just awful process. So the first lender was supporting an 85% loan to cost. When they came back, they asked for an outer survey. Now, if outer survey is a survey for the boundary, for all that stuff, and if you don't know how long that takes, it takes about 4 weeks. So here we are with 12 days to go, and the lender asked for something that would take 4 weeks. The seller denied us an extension, and at this point, we had almost $600,000 in earnest money deposit on the line. So what we did was we reach out to, first of all, we reached out to a network to ask for surveyors to see if anyone can push this along. And some people did come back with 2 weeks, but that was still after our closing date. So we reached out to another lender that we already built a relationship with, Melissa from Conventus, who is on the line. We asked the appraisal to be released from the first lender. If I had to do this over again, I would have asked that that appraisal should be automatically be released had we to request it from the first lender. We would have that sign, because even just asking for the appraisal to be released was a whole thing to go through. We handed everything in as fast as humanly possible, with follow-up all the time. And we thank people a lot. Like at this point, we're just really grateful for people and for Conventus to jump on and helping us. And their team was amazing to work with. So honestly, at this point, I was they're on the West Coast. So at this point, I was up at 6 a.m. doing things on my time to noon until they start, and then working until 9 until after they close. So a lot of things to get in place because we had 12 days to go. So key lesson number 3 is that everything on that closing checklist matters. If we had learned this lesson, we would avoid a lot of stress and all that jazz that goes along with it. So what I would highly suggest is that before committing to a lender, ask them for the checklist of their closing requirements. Now, next to each item, I would ask yourself and ask the lenders these questions. How long would it take to get this item done? And does this item depend on other things? And how long would those dependencies take? If we had these 2 questions, we would have avoided the whole thing, and we would have known that our first lender would not have been able to close on time. So that's a key lesson learned here. I think we only have a couple minutes, so I just want to quickly show you guys a couple quick construction update, because everyone loved before and after. We're a bit about over 4 months in, and we're making great progress on our construction. On the left here is some of the picture from before, and on the right is after we put in new paint, new LVP flooring. We changed out the kitchen. The kitchen is very 1980s kind of look. So we changed it to white shaker style cabinet, changed the flooring to LVP, put in granite countertop, changed the light to modern look, and it make a huge difference on how the units look. We, of course, also changed the hallway. The hallway was looking older, carpet, very dark. So we changed the light fixture for it to look more modern, a new LVP flooring, so it have a more modern, welcoming look for the tenants. All right, just a quick summaries of what I've shared. I know I've shared a lot of things that we've gone through. Takeaway is that definitely pick 2 or 3 of your strengths and tell everyone about them. This will help you stand out as buyers, especially in this market. Before going with the lenders, ask for their closing list, right? How long does this thing take? Does this thing depends on anything else, and how long would those items take? And very important point, if you take nothing from this, please take away that as real estate investors, you're always looking to build relationships and provide value to other people. And this relationship start today, right? Start building relationship today. You never know when you can help add value to other people, and you never know when other people can add value to you. A couple of bonus tips. I mentioned every relationship matters, right? Thank people a lot. Always thank them. Even if you don't do business with them, always thank them. A key thing for me was actions bring clarity, right? I was learning a lot about multifamily syndication, and then a lot of that got thrown out the window because of this foreclosure process. So I was learning a lot and was growing a lot through this process by just taking one thing at a time and figuring it out and figure the next things out. Ask for help, leverage your community. This is when I was super thankful to have community like the Real Estate InvestHER. I asked them for help a lot. I asked Strive for help a lot. A lot of the investor that jumped on our deal was actually from Strive, from the InvestHER community. My partner is from the InvestHER community. So truly, you're in the right place to start building the relationship and leverage the community. We had a 35-day closing, and every day almost seems like it's going to be over because things was moving really fast. Lots of things was moving. And a really key thing was to focus on just winning that next 15 minutes. So when I was sharing that I was working from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., just constantly trying to get this deal to the finish line, I focus on just winning this next 15 minutes. And that might just look like send Conventus this document, go talk to the brokers about this, go talk to my partner about this, go share this with the investor that asked about this deal. Just winning that next 15 minutes until you get to your destination. And truly, you're only one conversation and one action away from completely changing your life. So when I first shared, like, hey, we got this 42 unit like closed, one person was like, wow, that's really lucky. And there's certainly some luck involved, but there was a lot of preparation that get us to how all the stars align. So I didn't know that when I reach out to my partner through the InvestHER community, just like, hey, you're in my market, I'd love to connect. I didn't know that would then lead to a monthly mastermind that us just connecting and sharing stuff. I would know that would lead to them helping me on this partner, and I could not have done this without their help. And I did not know that, me talking to investors, sharing my deal would then help them, bring them on into this opportunity. So truly, it's hard to connect things looking forward, but it makes a lot of sense looking backward, right? So you're only one conversation and one action away from completely changing your life. And so with that, thank you so much for your generous listening of my stories. I would love to keep in touch. I found One River Capital to help other people create passive income, especially immigrants. My thing is real estate investing is for everyone, and I really want to support people in their investing journey. So yeah, with that, any question, I would love to answer them and chat more.
Great job, Yang. Really love the success story, and I love how you kind of pieced all the learnings together, but then also like, how you didn't know everything was going to lead you to where you were or are, but it all made sense kind of along the way to like do what's in front of you to do, start building relationships. So really cool stuff. All right, let's knock these down. We got a lot of questions here, and I want to see how we can get them. All right, we've already answered that. Are you saying you get to see inside the property before you bid on it?
Yes, for this property we did. So I know that usually for the smaller side, maybe like single family 2 to 4, you may not be able to see in the property. When you are buying these larger building, you do get to see inside the property, but we did not get to see all the units.
Okay, good. How many partners do you have for this transaction? So what does that partnership look like?
Yeah, so we have 4 cheapies on this total. So me plus 3 other partners. And then we have a group of, I believe, 7 limited partners on this deal.
Okay, awesome. What do you recommend for a beginner? I guess you're asking maybe Vanessa, buying something on an auction. Are you saying is that something that a beginner should do? I think that's what she's saying, or what pitfalls you might want to be mindful of, especially because it can get a little tricky, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So as I mentioned, for me with investing, right, I always try to mitigate the risk. Buying at foreclosure has a lot of risk, right? You might not be able to see all the property. These might be very highly vacant. They may have a lot of structural or construction issues going on, right? So with all of that in place, what you want to put in place is how can you mitigate the risk? So for us, we mitigate the risk by having experience in this market. If you're a beginner, I would highly suggest getting familiar with the process and getting familiar with the investor in your market who already have the capital piece in place, have the construction piece in place, they know what the rent would look like. They have those pieces in place, right? So they will help you mitigate that risk and you bring them the deal.
Yeah.
I would totally approach it like that.
Yeah, great recommendation. Ultimately, right, if you're beginning, everyone needs 2 things. They need more deal flow, or they need more money, or they need both. So it's always, if you're beginning, it's like you start to meet people. Like, how can I add value to them? How can I add value to their business? How can I add value and also add value to myself as a beginner? Because you do have something to offer. It's just a matter of positioning, which I loved you said earlier. So Jezebel, I want to make sure I say your name correctly, but any knowledge of properties going into auction but not foreclosed on or not delinquent at all, what insights can you provide on this matter?
Yeah, so I actually recently joined an online auction that was like a tax delinquent and it got stay. So this is when there are many different processes to the auction and it depends on the site. Some site only sells property that already foreclosed. So for example, I think Crack C and 10X, they already sell property that already got to a new owner. Everything's already set and you just purchase, become the new owner. So what I would advise is get to know the site and what type of property they are advertising and know what that looks like, right? And if you kind of follow different auctions and different rounds, you can kind of see like, okay, for this round, there may be like a lot of property listed, but not a lot of them actually end up being auctioned on. So get to know the site and what they do would be very important.
Okay.
And
That's a
then
good suggestion.
yeah.
Once the property goes into auction, are sellers not required to fix anything, correct? I think she's,
I don't know about the require part. I know that they will not.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know about whether they require or
What-
not. So for at least for me,
Yeah.
I know that when the lenders took it back, right? They did do repairs because they have some of those emergency like safety life regulation items that they have to fix while they're holding them. So for
Yeah.
liability purpose, they fix that. Anything else is for your information, you take the risk type of thing.
Yang, I don't know, we got another clarifying question. What was the purchase price and the down payment again?
The purchase price was, we end up getting accepted bid at 2.7 million. There was a 3% platform fee, so it ended up become 2.783. And then the down payment, depending on the lenders. The lenders we work with, Conventus, require 25%, and that's not on every deal. This was just what this deal was. So the down payment was 25%. And
Plus
then
the
25% of
three.
the construction plus the 3. Yeah. So 25% of the 2.783
Got it.
was what they funded. And then also they fund 75% of the construction budget, which was 1.5.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. Is there such with auction property having a reserve amount, and if it's not met, auction is canceled? I think that's just
Yes,
a general
absolutely.
auction question. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I have seen auction that when the reserve was not met, the auction was canceled. When I talked to my auction specialist and trying to ask them what the reserve amount is, they would not tell me. So be prepared for that. And I would ask them like, hey, if the reserve is not met, what would that look like? And they may or may not tell you. But yes, I have seen property with the reserve not met and auction is canceled and they wait for another round.
Okay, makes sense. All right. Okay. With all the contingencies and budget padding you put in, were you able to show a profitable deal for the lender and investors? I found that I'm pretty conservative in underwriting, but then the deal doesn't work out on paper.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So yes, so in this case, right, because we are bringing investors in and this deal has a lot of risk, we would rather not do a deal than do a deal and be under. So because we have so much risk, it has to be worth it and it has to make sense for us to do the deal. So yes, we had to pad the budget with contingency. And yes, even then it was profitable because as I mentioned, I share, this is just kind of unique because we are able to kind of do like a BRRRR, be able to refinance out a lot of, actually almost all of our budget at the refinancing point because we have quite a lot of room for this size.
Got it.
So if you find that you're conservative underwriting, the deal doesn't work out on paper, right? It might not work out on paper because truly the deal just don't work out, right? Especially in this rising interest rate environment with things are getting more expensive with construction. Truly, sometimes they may not work out because they just don't truly make sense.
Yeah, somebody's asking about who Yang worked with in terms of lending. I'm going to put her information in here. Melissa,
yeah,
she's with Conventus Lending, and they are a sponsor for our InvestHER Con. So big shout out to them for the support. All right, Elizabeth, you were asking, my friend Elizabeth, fellow Strive member, you were asking how did the appraiser value the property, especially given the high vacancy? It's a good question.
Yeah, great question. So the way the appraisal is done, especially for these value add property, is that they do two things. They do an as is and as completed. So for the as is, what they usually would do is, if even though when there is vacancy, they assign a market value for the rent that you could potentially get, and then take into the expense of property similar at this size, and then the cap rate of the market to give you the value of the property as is. So say even if you don't fix up anything and you're just renting things out as is, this is the value of property would be. And then they would take into an as completed, which is, once you fix it up, once you increase the rent, once you improve the operation, what would the value be then?
Awesome. All right, we're going to take one more question because we like to start on time, end on time. I just really appreciate everyone's time today. We're almost at the hour. So just a little bit about the tenants. Did you have to evict the remaining tenants? And then I'll just ask the follow-up question that Amy had and we'll wrap. So did you have to evict remaining tenants?
Yes, so we have about 6 or 7 tenants left, and we are in the process of working with them, either evicting them or working with them if they are qualified tenants and good tenants to move on to a renovated unit. So our goal is, we don't want to evict tenants if absolutely can be avoided. So we're definitely working with tenants to see if they are qualified to move on to the next.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Fitting.
And then last one, will you start renting them out as you complete units, or will you wait till all 42 are done?
Great question. So for our goal is to start, we start construction top down with bay by bay, right? So with that approach, we are planning on leasing them out in a group. So for example, we're leasing out 6 units in this bay on the top floor, and then move on to the other bay on the top floor, so that when we do construction on the second floor, the tenant on the third floors are not disturbed by the construction happening below. So yeah, we are leasing them out in phases.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to have you on for like part 2 here. This has been amazing. Yang, you're awesome. I love hearing your journey. I love how authentic and transparent you are with the lessons and the learning, and you're just doing great stuff. So great job today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Just so appreciate it. We have 2 events probably a month for free that are just virtual. So join us. Yang, thanks again so much. And everyone, please stay active. For having me. If you have follow-up questions, keep the conversations going with the meetups that you're a part of, InvestHER, through the Facebook community. Our community is all about supporting you along your journey. So I mean that sincerely. So thanks for being here. And Yang, thanks again for knocking it out of the park. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, if you guys have any questions still, I know I haven't got to them. So just feel free to email me, whatever. Happy to answer them. Thank you so much for having me, Liz. This has been super fun.
You're welcome. Have a great day, everybody. And do something with what you learned. Take one action today. So this wasn't just information and educational, but it's actually actionable. So take one thing from today, put it into action, share how it's going, and we appreciate everyone's time. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.